Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where once again, Universal is surprisingly competitive. Yes, while last August belonged to the more prolific Warner Brothers, the studio which led the charge with Asian August, this August is Universal's. They don't release a lot of movies, but when they do... Yes, first Hobbs Shaw continues its box office grind. Slowly, but maybe surely. Actually, there's nothing sure about it. But you know what? The movie ain't dead yet, to its credit. So this weekend, it was able to boast a franchise best headline with its opening day in South Korea. Now, sure, we're not talking about a lot of money here. But they don't have to put the figure in the headline. They can just say, as they have, best opening ever for South Korea for the franchise. And that maintains Hobbs & Shaw's momentum, just as it's about to finally hit the Middle Kingdom this coming weekend. You don't want China to think they're getting everybody else's sloppy seconds, right? This ain't a dud, China. Get excited. Hitting the double century mark has become almost impossible for the film stateside. That's so bad. And worldwide, Hobbs & Shaw is still not even halfway to $1 billion, which of course is supposed to be the new normal for Fast and Furious movies. Its break-even point, by the way, is said to be $600 million, and it's about $150 million away from even that. China is Dwayne Johnson's last hope to save face after aggressively trying to wrestle the franchise away from Vin Diesel. Wow, it's a crazy story because it seemed like he was going to definitely do it. But now it looks like, as I said last weekend or, 2 weekends ago on Movie Math, I have some concern that they've both ruined the franchise with their feud, and I think they should bury the hatchet and team up again. But we'll see what happens with Fast and Furious 9. It could be too late. They might have just actually ruined Fast and Furious. I'm curious how you still feel about the brand. The last two Fast and Furious movies did about 390 each in China. That's very nice. Well, Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham have both been able to post impressive numbers there in the past all by themselves. So again, China's looking good. Now, as I've said before, and as many of you have been pointing out in this narrative, Universal, like any Hollywood studio, will only get about a quarter of its Chinese box office. So many of you are like, who cares how much a movie makes in China? But a big score in China will help the studio, the franchise, and stars Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham save face, at least on paper. Most people, unless you watch Movie Math and pay close attention to the trades, don't know how little you get back from the Chinese box office. A lot of people just see the headline. They see what the studio wants them to see. So they see a nice big number and they go, woohoo, the movie's a hit, right? Well, they don't have anything invested in it, but it helps the image of the film. And where it is in the rankings, which of course have become so popular these days. But behind the scenes, I think it's important to remember that Universal has decided they don't want to be in the Dwayne Johnson business anymore, recently letting Netflix take Red Notice off their hands, even though they had previously won the film in a hot bidding war. But luckily for Dwayne Johnson, even if Universal ain't into him anymore, he already has Sony and Disney movies in the can. All he needs is for just one of them to score at the box office to keep his empire, and it is an empire going. Recently, I was just walking through the city and I saw him on a billboard for Voss water. I was like, you get that money, Dwayne. He's grinding himself. He's getting it out there, and you have. I think, as we're going to talk about in a moment, I think overexposure is a problem a little bit for Dwayne Johnson, but I guess he feels he never knows when this is going to end. I think he might be speeding it up a little bit, but we'll see. Because again, these two movies, Jumanji 2 and Jungle Cruise, I think are very solid shots, almost surefire wins. Because of course the first Jumanji did so well, and we'll see if people use it against Star Wars when they go head to head again this holiday season. And then Jungle Cruise is a Disney film, and Disney's just printing money these days. So again, as I said, I think he probably has two surefire wins. But going forward, I would advise Dwayne Johnson, because I don't know what Danny Garcia is telling him or Henry Cavill. She seems to be not doing a great job as a manager. But anyway, I would advise him not to get into any more public feuds. It ain't worth it, Dwayne. I don't care what Vin Diesel said to you on set. And he should still, I think, as I said, be concerned about overexposure. Like Ballers season 5 starts next weekend. Why? I mean, it was important there for a hot minute. You know, he started it just around the time he had San Andreas. He wasn't getting a lot of movie work at that time. It was a steady paycheck. It was another way a potential success for him to point to. He helped launch John David Washington's career. That's a nice feather in his cap. But I don't think he needs Ballers anymore. But yet he's keeping it going. And again, it's just too much Dwayne Johnson. Can you have too much Dwayne Johnson? I think, unfortunately, you can have too much of anything. I know it's a popular saying, can you have too much of a good thing? But I think everybody agrees. Well, I guess maybe the exception to that is money and love, right? And Dwayne Johnson seems to have a lot of love with his family, and he is making a lot of money. But, I guess do you want a short or a long-term strategy? I guess at the end of the day, he's very successful. I think the only question becomes, what does he want his image and legacy to be? And does he want to be able to keep working? And also, because he has such a big family, does he want to be able to pass something on to them so that they can maybe launch careers? It's tough out there. All right, so you can't, keep going, Dwayne. All right, so Universal's other win this weekend was a surprisingly strong debut for Good Boys, right? The second biggest comedic debut of the year, which again, that's not great for comedies, but it's also the biggest debut for an original comedy because Medea, of course, is part of a larger brand. So expect everyone associated with this film to sign new deals in the coming weeks, especially stars Jacob Tremblay and Keith L. Williams. Now, so you might be like, why are we making such a big deal about these small debuts? Let's discuss. All right, so while streaming seems to have killed the mid-range movie, Hollywood's two new favorite plays are, of course, the mega blockbuster, but also the lean and mean surprise hit. Movies like Good Boys and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark are low risk thanks to their tiny budgets and small, mostly digital advertising campaigns. Because TV spots and billboards cost money, damn it! But when these little movies hit, they're almost all profit. That's why Tinseltown is popping champagne over $20 million openings. Because, hey, at least some people are still going to see some movies, because that's the really big concern. That's the big picture look here. That as streaming services proliferate, bringing a tsunami of content with them, is there any room in people's budgets for a trip to the movies? This is a problem that's coming up. Disney Plus, for instance, launches in November, but everybody's very aware of it. Because, for instance, one showing, going to see one movie is more expensive than an entire month of a single streaming service's content. So that's why Regal, I believe, just joined AMC in offering its own monthly service fee, basically. And I'd say on that note, I have a question for you. Which monthly fees, services, including movie theaters, are going to make it into your entertainment budget in the months ahead? Which streaming services and what do you plan to subscribe to? Disney Plus, Netflix, there's Amazon Prime, there's HBO Max coming up. Universal's will be free because it has commercials. But what are you going to pay for? And then also, how will movies factor into that? How will that affect your movie buying habits? For tickets. Now, Disney, I think this is Disney's plan. Disney could very well become your only source for entertainment, especially with their Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Hulu bundle for just $13.99 a month, which will be available when Disney Plus launches in November, at least in the United States. So you stream Disney at home, and then you head out to theaters when they release a movie, and half of that plan already seems to be in effect. As yes, Toy Story 4 just passed the $1 billion mark, making Disney the first studio to have $5 billion movies in a single year. And the year ain't even over yet. I think they probably have, I'm not sure about Star Wars. Although with Disney, I think it's best to err on the side of caution and assume both of those will also be billion-dollar films. And it's also worth noting, speaking of billion-dollar movies, that Spider-Man Far From Home just became Sony's biggest movie of all time, surpassing Skyfall, which is obviously thanks to being a de facto MCU movie. It's got to sting a little bit, but again, Sony's like, we just need the win. Especially when we take a look at how Angry Birds 2 did this weekend. But anyway, as we've been discussing, it would appear that Disney itself overall has gone and built themselves a $1 billion audience across all of its movie verticals. So once Disney Plus kicks in, will the Mouse House monopoly be fully operational? I have a feeling it might be. This is scary times for everyone else. The government let this happen. It is turning into a genuine monopoly. I mean, I don't know. If no one else puts up a good fight, is it still a monopoly? It's crazy. All right, so as for the weekend's other new releases, Sony did very little, again, to launch The Angry Birds 2. And going up against the raunchy Good Boys, which had an even stronger Rotten Tomatoes score, well, the animated flick was made to look extra kiddie and extra streamy, which is weird because actually, as I said in my review, it has surprisingly adult humor. But, it certainly didn't look like it was the level of Good Boys. And kids aren't supposed to go and see Good Boys, obviously, because it's rated R, but they can if a parent takes them. And then also, of course, so many, 18 and up moviegoers are supposed to go and see animation. But I think a lot of those people went to see Good Boys instead, because both, at the end of the day, are comedies. I hope that on streaming, the movie, Angry Birds 2 will find an audience. Because seriously, it has a way higher Rotten Tomatoes score than the first film, and a fabulous animated short playing in front of it, Hair Love. And Sony really, I think, should have worked harder to promote this. Spider-Verse was obviously a much bigger film than this, but Spider-Verse wasn't as big as it should have been, which is also another failure, I think, to some degree on the part of Sony Animation. They need to work on their PR. At least Spider-Verse has an Oscar. All right, so Entertainment One was unable to turn 47 meters into a franchise for themselves. The burgeoning studio, every studio needs a franchise, and Entertainment One was hoping this would be it. It's not. While Warner Brothers, blinded by the light, clearly suffered from opening after the very similar Yesterday. Hopefully, with the strongest RT score of the weekend, Blinded by the Light will be another movie that finds an audience eventually on streaming. But at least it opened in the top 10, something that can't be said for Richard Linklater's Where'd You Go, Bernadette, which was not only hit by a Rotten Tomato, but Cate Blanchett promoted the film by going around saying maybe it's time for her to quit acting. Cheer up, Kate! Nobody in Hollywood bats 100. And we want to see that Lucille Ball movie. When are you making it? Also, interestingly, Blanchett does have 2 TV shows on the horizon, currently filming. She hasn't been a series regular since the 1990s when she started her career, and is just the latest top-tier talent in front of and behind the camera to answer the siren call of streaming. There's so much money in it. It's just crazy, the hierarchy of Hollywood. Everything's topsy-turvy. All right, so looking at the overall top 10, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which of course everybody celebrated last weekend, but that movie and Dora both dropped significantly in just their second weekends. That's the same, if that was a big blockbuster, you'd think it was great that it dropped only around 50%, each movie dropped only around 50%. But since they opened smaller, they're supposed to have better legs. They're supposed to, play for a longer period of time as more and more people discover them. They're not front-loaded pictures. So on that note, let's see what happens to Good Boys next weekend, even after this impressive debut. As for this coming weekend, there ain't much summer or summer movies left. Ready or Not hits theaters on Wednesday, while Gerard Butler returns with another Fallen installment, hoping to open at number 1, while Sony also debuts faith-based flick Overcomer. Why does Sony have so many movies in a row? All right, so anyway, that's this week's Movie Math. Thanks for going over the box office with me, as always. Share your thoughts down below. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And by the way, I hope you have notifications, or will consider turning on notifications for this channel. And if you do, don't click on just some notifications. Make sure you hit all notifications, because YouTube's weird like that. I don't know why there's a choice. Either you want notifications or you don't. So if you do have notifications on, check to see if it's on all. All right, so, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos by just clicking on them right now.